Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Makers Bar podcast. Today we have with us Apoorv Sharma, co founder at Excluto. Hi, Apoorv.
Hi, Slavi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're also so excited to have this conversation finally with you. It's been like what, four tries, and we're finally here. So tell me, so let's just go ahead and start this conversation.
Sure.
So, am I pronouncing it right? Is this Excluto?
Yes, Excluto.
Okay, that's great.
Exclusive tomorrow.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that's what it meant.
Yeah,
Okay, that's nice. So that was actually going to be my next question. So why don't you tell us more about Excluto?
sure. So Excluto is a wealth tech platform, right? And what we are trying to do is democratize access to private markets, specifically structured funds like venture capital funds, SME IPO funds, venture debt funds, and other funds that operate in the private space. And we want to increase their access to qualified investors in the market, right? So the investors can come on our platform, discover these funds that are in their fundraising journey, can go through their data and can invest in these funds.
Okay, and tell me about your background and how did you decide to venture into something like this?
So I have been a part of the startup ecosystem for over 13 years now in different capacities. So I've worked for startups, I've worked for incubators, accelerators, corporate innovation, and I've done that in a global capacity. Last, I was working for a venture capital firm. It was a US headquartered global fund, and there I was a part of a market strategy team. Now the market strategy team looks at both buy side and sell side of a fund. That means you are looking at the investment that are flowing into the company, but you are also engaging with limited partners. During that time, I also got an opportunity to interact with other general managers, general partners of different firms, limited partners, investors that invest into these funds. And there I realized that there's a white space in this particular market, right? India as a country, while we are the third largest startup ecosystem, our dependency on overseas capital is way too high, right? Majority of the capital that is coming into the industry is overseas capital. When I say majority, it's like above 80% of it is coming from outside India. India as a country has no dearth of capital. There are pockets of wealth that are there. The challenge that we saw is the penetration of the market to these pockets of wealth. So that's where the idea came in. We started experimenting. We started talking to people about what do they know about startups or venture capital ecosystem. Surprisingly, everyone know about startups. Everyone know that investment happens into startups, thanks to shows like Shark Tank. Right, it's a household name. But when it comes to venture capital, a more structured way of investing into the a startup as a set class, the knowledge is not there, not yet there. Plus, the access is not there. So that's how Excluto shaped up.
Okay, and what is your education background that you got? I mean, do you have a finance background that you got interested in something like this, or like all startup, almost all startup founders, you're from engineering as well?
Yes, I have an engineering background. I do have an MBA, but I have a keen interest in finance. So, and this is something that I developed during my job, right? So I delved into financial modeling for startups, and when I worked for funds, I delved into financial modeling for funds, right? So I have a keen interest in this area. I have a keen interest in learning more about the regulatory aspects, and of course the whole concept of wealth generation and wealth creation. So that's my background.
Okay, but I mean, you've been part of the ecosystem for so long, but how do you feel that startups 10 years ago, what were the issues faced by startups 10 years ago, and what are the issues faced by startups now? And I believe Excluto is only almost 2 years old. So, what are the issues that is being faced by a startup like Excluto right now?
Sure. So, 10 years ago, the ecosystem was completely different. Right? So, I was an incubation manager. And when these early stage founders used to come to us, I have to talk to their parents. Right. So, the founder is coming and saying, okay, Papa is not allowing me to do business. I'm earning 25,000 in a job. And parents are not at all happy with that. Right. So, that was the mindset 10 years back. Fast forward to today, it's a very well accepted, career stream. People have aspiration to build something of their own and have courage and hope that they can build something big from scratch. So the ecosystem overall has been transformational. 10 years back, there were around 2,000 angel investors in the country. The registered data by Startup India today is over 60,000. The actual data that you can track is over 2 lakh, 200,000 angel investors, right? So the whole ecosystem has exploded significantly, massively. But still, I would say there's a lot more room of improvement, right? We need more VCs, we don't need more angels, and of course, we need more innovation and startups in the country. As far as Excluto is concerned, we started doing our market research. That means talking to people, different kind of stakeholders in the market, somewhere back in May June last year, and launched our first pilot in October. What we consciously plan to do is to keep it as a series of experiments, right? So, we didn't put too much resources into building a very fancy technology. We didn't put all the eggs in one basket in terms of marketing and spend. So, we keep on doing these little experiments. So, initially, when we started, we were like a regular wealth tech platform where you can log in and see the list and everything. And our target audience were family offices and tier one cities, primarily if we talk about India. But then we realized that there are a very limited number of family offices in the country, and these are the only identified limited partners or big ticket investors in the country, and they are hugely overserviced, right? So all the bankers go to them, all the fund managers go to them, right? Not only with the private market kind of offerings, the public market people also reach out to them. No, they're already overserviced. Then we figured out that we have a market which is underserved, which is the tier 2 and tier 3 city limited partners, and that's where we started moving towards it. In the meantime, we got some market inputs. We revamped our platform, our tech as well, and we are continuously doing that. So many challenges. We did multiple small experiments. Most of them failed. But as I said, we were very clear that we have to do these experiments to get the market input and improve our overall offering.
Yeah, that makes sense. Considering I know nothing about the startup ecosystem or the venture capital ecosystem, this makes a lot of sense. So, thank you for simplifying it for me. Um, so, I wanted to ask you, you have a background in also, I see it's startup mentoring, and you've been part of this journey for a long time, and you have engineering background and marketing background and finance background. So, what is your current role as a co-founder at Excluto? Like, how many hats do you wear, and which hat do you prefer?
Basically, it's a very small team. Almost everyone of us do everything. But my co-founder Vikas is the CTO. So everything you see on the content side and the technology side is something that he do. Operations, sales, and strategy is something that we both do together. But operations and sales is primarily that I do. So meeting clients, meeting VC funds, getting them on the platform, getting them invested is my job.
Okay. And in the last, like since your first pilot in October till now, what do you feel has been the most satisfying moment for you in this journey?
See, I think for any startup, the most satisfying moment is when you get the first check, right? So, so it's basically you start with a hypothesis, right? You test it out in the market, and somehow it worked, right? It has worked for us. So, as of today, we got commitments of over 70 crores for our funds so far. Multiple crores have been already drawn down. So what we have been trying to do is kind of working for us, right? Uh, we have started getting inbounds. We have started getting leads from LPs that okay, I want to invest in such and such asset. Do you have something for us? Which is also a validation that something like this is required in the market. And yes, we are very lean. Um, um, we are very cautious in how we move in the market because it's a very sensitive market to be in. So still we are getting a validation, and I think that's the most satisfying part of anything we do.
And what have been the doubts in the last? I mean, just the opposite question to my last question, right? What have been the doubts, and
Yeah.
how have you overcome doubts and adversity? Considering, startups is like, I mean, besides being fast paced, it's also like a lot of young people are like getting into it with no, I feel, head or tail. I mean, I don't know, a lot of them don't have any mentors and stuff. So how do you feel that? So I mean, obviously you've been part of this this ecosystem for so long, but do you still deal with adversity and doubt? Is my question.
Yeah, yeah, all the time. Right. So, so one benefit that we get is because we have been a part of the ecosystem. We have a lot of people we can go to and ask questions. We can, try to brainstorm on certain things. That's something I believe is an advantage that we have, and we do it a lot. But it's still, it's when someone is investing their own capital, right? It's a very personal choice, right? And how do they want to share their data? How do they want to be introduced to someone else? How much they want to commit? All these things are like multiple moving parts. So there are doubts. There have been doubts, and I'm pretty sure that this will be the case for a very long period of time. The way we overcome it is, we try to execute things, right? So we have a hypothesis. We thought that okay, let's try to do a event, right? Now how to do a event? So now the doubt is, should we go to a tier 2 city? Should we go to a tier 1 city? Should we do it in a small format? How people will anticipate it? So what we did is we did all the formats, right? So we did one in a tier 2 city, Ahmedabad. We did it in Taj. Then we did it in Kota in a co-working space. We did it in Jaipur in an education institute. We did it in Mumbai in some other place. So these small experiments, you execute them. Of course, they are going to cost you something, but specifically in our business, our ROI is just one deal, right? So we again consider ourselves as a series of experiment. If you even see our tech, how we build it is we build modular. We build different modules, right? And we keep on adding the functionality to the platform, right? So it's not all built perfectly at one time. We are just keep on building it. We are trying it, and we are open to do that. So if you have any doubts, just try it out. You'll get the answers from the market.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think with our like the older we grow, it's more difficult to have like try out doubts, like take those risks because it becomes even more difficult, right? Because you want to think about money, you want to think about society and things like that. But the way this how startup founders think, and I feel like anybody who's into this whole startup system is very different because you're okay with taking risks, and that is very different from us employed, uh, normal employees, corporate slave type people, because we are like so set in our ways and how we want to think and how we approach things. This is really cool. So how tell
I
me
would
how
like
did
to
you
add something to it,
yeah,
Swami,
please.
what you just said. This is my third venture. My last venture was around 10 years ago. And when I was moving from entrepreneurship to a job, my thought was that, okay, I'll work for like 6 months and then I'll start again, something like that. Right? It has been 10 years. And what I personally kind of observed is that the only thing missing was, I was always having these ideas. I was meeting so many intelligent and interesting people in the journey. There were two things missing. First, I was waiting for the right time. That okay, I'll do it after this particular milestone. Right. Second, I also kind of realized that it was somewhere a lack of courage, right? Because failure is very well anticipated, right? So when you start something, if it is gonna fail, you're going to lose XYZ months of your time. You are going to lose XYZ rupees. You don't anticipate accidental successes, right? And that's there's no way to do it unless you start doing it, right? You will never know what kind of people you will meet, what kind of opportunities will come across until you get into it. So that's just the difference. It's just one step from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. I don't feel that it's too much different in that sense, because as employees we work very hard, right? As entrepreneurs we
Yeah.
work very hard, so it's always the same.
Yeah, but working for somebody else and working for ourselves, I think is the key difference. And of course, and if you ever write a book, you should definitely use this line: failure is anticipated and success is accidental. That's like great. I might quote you in the future, and if I ever like, I will use this line, and I will quote you in the future. That is great.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So, getting your first client, let's go back to that. Getting your first client, getting your first check, how difficult was it? As you said that people, you had seen that this was an over service industry with everybody going to certain people, and there was like, it was part of a certain, like, I would say maybe society, maybe it was part of like larger cities were more into something like this and smaller cities had no idea. So how was it bagging your first client? Like, how difficult was it, and how did you manage to do it also?
Yeah. So see, specifically in the financial industry, right? The larger check size you ask for and the larger risk you ask for, the more difficult it is to get, right? So, as per SEBI, the minimum investment allowed in a AIF is 1 crore, right? And it's probably it's a very high risk and high return kind of asset class. It took us 2.5 months to got our first client got our first client meeting, not client, right? It took us 2.5 months to just got our first client meeting. And in the first meeting, our first client, committed 25 lakhs to angel fund, and a week after that, they committed 1 crore. Then they introduced us to some of their friends. Their friends introduced us to some of their friends, and that's how the network kind of grew for us. So the entry to the first client was very difficult for us, and it took us some time. And those 2 months, 2.5 months were very very stressful for us, because we have started it, we have not, we are doing it full time, and we don't have any client. So yeah, that's how it was for us.
Yeah. And I'm assuming like for example, you said that you tried different concepts or something in different areas, like in Ahmedabad and Mumbai, in a college in Jaipur. And I'm assuming you got different feedback. And feedback from college students in Jaipur and somebody else sitting in Taj in Ahmedabad would be different, right? And how you use that feedback is how
Yeah,
is what made you advantageous at your position, I believe.
correct, correct. So see, everyone one thing that was common across all is the understanding of how this asset class, the AIF, Alternative Investment Fund asset class, works. Right. If I have to tell you in a very simplest form, see, you invest in stock markets, or you can go to a mutual fund, or you can do both. Right. When you go to a mutual fund, they'll invest in a portfolio on your behalf. A fund manager is sitting and managing your capital on your behalf. It's the full-time job of a fund manager to do that. If you are investing yourself in the stock market, it's your responsibility where you invest and when you exit the market. The same concept can be applied to investing in startups individually versus investing in a VC fund. When you invest in a VC fund, you are investing in a portfolio of company, and a full-time fund management team is managing your portfolio for you. Right. So that is something in the easiest form we try to explain to anyone we meet. Right. Everywhere we go, every experiment that we do, you know, we get some sort of interest, right? Some people want to in looks it as an investment opportunity, some looks it as a partnership opportunity, some look as a future career opportunity, right? But the bottom line is everyone sees some sort of opportunity in this particular space. It's very exciting overall.
Yeah, and there's so much exposure to it right now that, I mean, even I think I remember my father saying this to me that when he was growing up and he was studying BCom, there was just one guy in his class who went and registered himself to become a broker, like a stockbroker. And that time they used to make fun of him. And he used to go for these evening classes and all that, and they used to make fun of him. And now they're like, okay, like he knew something then, he was right then. And
Yeah,
it's something like that. Like that time there was limited exposure. Even when we were growing up, there was limited exposure. But kids nowadays, they are like, they know these things more than me. Like I can talk to a class 10 person and they would know way more than me right now because they're like they just know these things, right? Because they have more exposure to it.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, they have a higher exposure.
Yeah. So I also now okay, let's go talk about Excluto again. So tell me, um having been through so many organizations also, do you feel that um certain values define a company and represents a company? And do you feel that and also tell us what are the do you like does Excludo have these key values that you feel define Excludo?
Yeah. First of all, the fundamental on which we stand is um, our objective is to generate wealth or wealth creation for the end user. Right. This is something that that is the bottom line for us. Right. And this is the basic requirement. So one thing that we make sure is, there should be high standards of honesty and integrity. Right. Just because we get something out of pushing a product, we don't do it. We will never do it. Right. So whenever we work with a particular fund, right, we try to see whether we invest our personal money in that fund or not before recommending it to someone else. Right. Then only we work with the fund. When we work with a investor, we also see that whether the investor is the right fit for the fund manager or right, because it's a very long term kind of relation. So so that is something which is a deal breaker for us. And we have literally denied or kind of requested investors not to invest in a certain fund, and we have done the other way around as well, right, because we don't see an alignment. So that's one. And second thing is, we do emphasize a lot on experiments. Right, there are not many platforms in this particular space that we are in. So there is no playbook for us. Right, we have to build it ourselves. So we truly believe that if we don't experiment enough, we can't innovate enough. Right, so failing is okay, not trying is not okay. So I think these are the two things we take very seriously, and we are a very small team, 5 6 people. We are And anyone who has any idea, we see how we can actually try it out and see how it works.
And so everybody in your team, are they all with like finance backgrounds?
No, no, no.
No.
So
But
different backgrounds, right? In fact, no one in our team is a hardcore finance background, right? Everyone has different experiences, and someone has been in the angel investment industry, someone from a tech background, someone from a media communication kind of background, right? So we have very diverse background. Each one of us, we have a very diverse background, and that's where the I would say fusion of thought processes comes in and helps us to innovate a little bit.
okay. And what kind of now? And I mean, like you said, getting the first client was a little difficult. It took you 2.5 months to just get the first meeting, and then through their through word of mouth and networking, you got more clients. But do you still go to the market and uh, like how do you? What kind of clients would you approach? What is your target audience?
So see, for India, uh, we basically tap tier two and tier three markets. Um, if I talk about my user persona, usually these are second, third, fourth generation business owners under the age of 45. Almost all our users are under the age of 45 who have an understanding of this market but might have a limited exposure or limited time availability. So that's our primary target. We are also trying to reach out CXOs of companies specifically for tech-oriented venture funds. That's our second target. Outside India, we try to tap Indian diaspora, and we also try to tap corporates and family offices looking for an exposure to the Indian startup ecosystem.
Okay. Okay. And what is your and your co-founders Vikas, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. What is your vision for Excluto? Like what does the future hold for you?
So we see ourselves becoming something maybe like a grow kind of platform for private markets, right? So there are multiple products in private markets. It's not only with VC funds, right? So everything that you have in a public market, you have a counterpart in the private market. The only problem is the access that we feel. So for a qualified investor, if we can democratize access to all these asset classes, and when I say all these asset classes, I don't mean that only in India. If we can unlock the global potential of these assets, right, then I think we'll be able to create a huge value for our users and for the funds as well to diversify their base of investors, thereby diversifying their network into different places. So ultimate vision is to become a global platform with global opportunities for qualified investors.
Okay. And so are you also besides India, are you also approaching clients abroad to have a more global like workload and outlook?
Absolutely, we are.
And how difficult is it to get foreign clients on board?
See again, the bigger issue is the ticket size that we have. It's minimum 1 crore. When the ticket size increases, there's a very big component of trust that needs to be included, right? So if it is like $1,000, I can experiment it, right? I can try. Okay, if I invest 1,000 rupees, something bad happens, not an issue. But if I invest a crore, then I need some more trust. So reaching out to foreign clients is basically what we are trying to do is to reach out through channels, through people we already know, and just get some initial introductions. We don't do hard sales in a company because as a company we also believe that if you are investing, you should still be able to sleep peacefully. If you are stressing on your investment, it's not a good investment. right? So we don't do hard sales. At this current stage, we are just keeping them informed about the opportunities that we have here in India, right? And how they can be a part of it. But primarily, we are reaching out through different channels, different friends of ours in the ecosystem.
Okay. And since you said that, let's talk about your team again. Since you said that all of you are from different backgrounds, how do you ensure, like as a founder and as a leader? I mean, I understand everybody's doing everything, but as a founder and a leader, how do you ensure and foster innovation and creativity? Um, like, yeah, innovation and creativity within your organization.
So I think a very big part of fostering innovation and creativity is to keep an open channel of communication, right? Anyone from the team approaching with a particular idea, they should not feel that, okay, what if it is a stupid idea, right? And what might be the consequences of it if it's not going to work, right? So that kind of comfort and communication is required in every team member. That okay, we'll let's try it out, right? So this is very open here at Excluto. We in fact have a channel on our Slack. It's dedicated for ideas. Right? You have anything in your mind at any point in time, just put it there, and then we'll discuss in the next meeting. Right. So so that's what we do. We do a lot of research, right? A lot of things that me and Vikas discuss. We take it to the complete team, right? And we discuss it with them as well. That okay, this is something that we are kind of thinking. What's your thoughts on it? Another thing that I feel is very important for the team to have that sense of belongingness is you share your both successes and challenges, right? So if you get a good ticket investment, you share it with your company, with your team members, right? What you are planning to do yourself for the next week or the next month, you share with them that this is my plan, this is something that I'm going to do. If you have anything to add, please let me know, right? If you were not able to get anything done, then also share with them, share the learnings and move forward. So I think that's the way we can do it. We share a lot of things with each other. Anything we study a lot, anything interesting that we get, we share it with the relevant team member or in a common group for everyone to consume it. Because whenever you read something, it's very different. How do you perceive it, right? And that's where the fusion of these different backgrounds come in place.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And also, I think everybody with like, because they come from a different background, their approach and how they observe and also how they come up with ideas is so different. I think that really helps as compared to everybody from like same, like everything, like when things are very
Yeah, yeah.
similar. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you send the same document to the legal team, the marketing team, the sales team, and the ops team. All the four teams will have a different view on that, and
Yeah.
that has happened to me like multiple times. So that this is good at some times, at least when you are trying to figure out things.
Yeah. And by the end of it, the document has completely changed and
Yeah.
lost its lost its focus. Yeah. That happens. So, okay. So, I mean, you must have, like you said, that you have, like, actually, I went through your LinkedIn profile and I saw that you have mentored startups previously. What is your, like, the topmost, like, the best advice that you feel that all startups founders um, should follow or should do that you feel that has helped you as well?
So see, I have, if not more, at least I have worked with 1,000 startups so far, right? And startup founders at least. And one thing that pinched me a little every time is very, interesting, intelligent people with very good ideas. Never ended up doing anything about it, right? Again, this is something that I did as well. So you just wait for the right time to come. You just wait for the right situation to be on the on your side. you never take courage to take that leap, right? So there could have been very good startups around, at least the people I know who have never started. So the first advice is, if you have something in your mind, try it out. You don't have to leave your job. You don't have to leave your full-time stuff. Try it out. At least start talking to people, right? Move it out of your computer, move it out of your notebook, and start reaching out to people. Start getting more inputs from the market. That's something that will excite you, right? But the another fact is that there will be so many challenges, and the challenges can be overcome only with self motivation, and that's where a co-founders also come into the picture, right? So anyone who's trying to build something, try to see that, do you have a co-founder around you? Do you have someone who has a complementary skill set or a complementary personality to you? And try to build something on the sides. If you get some traction, I'm not saying traction in terms of financial traction. If you get some market acceptance at the initial stage, start with it. As simple as that.
Okay. And continuing with that, are what do you feel are like the critical skills that an entrepreneur needs to have to succeed? Like something that you've witnessed with young founders, something that is like a that has been going on with other people as well. What do you feel is like the most critical thing that they need to have?
I would say the most critical thing, and it is kind of undervalued, is the ability to learn and learn from others, basically. Right? Most of the startups don't end up being building what they initially thought of. Because again, when you're thinking of an idea, thinking of a startup, you are in a very close, confined environment. But when you go out in the market, there are other factors that come into play, right? But there's a lot of help, lot of support available. So you should be receptive of that, right? Okay, I'll try to hear what someone is saying, try to understand their perspective, then accept it or reject it. There are certain founders who are very good in that, and I would say most successful founders have done it. There are certain good founders who ignore it, and I have seen paying them a heavy price for it. So the ability to learn, the ability to understand the perspective of someone else is something very critical, especially at the early stages of your business when you are taking a huge amount of market inputs.
Yeah. I mean, I think the ability to learn is important in every stage of life, but especially when you're starting something from scratch on your own, because if you don't maneuver and figure out your footing and you just stick to one path, of course there's going to be a problem, right? So nobody's career
Yeah.
trajectory
So
is like this. Everybody's is.
specifically in startups, what happens is,
Hmm.
you might have seen those kind of quotes that if everyone is denying, and you should prove them wrong and kind of stuff. It sometimes make founders very arrogant, right?
Hmm.
And when I say, and when this happens, they just don't feel like listening to anyone, right? So that is something, that should be avoided, I would say. um, it, because someone who is telling you something might have an experience in that, might be telling you from his or her own experience. And having said that, of course, you should not take advice from everyone and anyone. But if you are taking it, just take it seriously.
Yeah, 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 that's great, thanks. And so now my last question to you is, what do you feel like, tell me some book or a mentor or a life event that has significantly influenced your journey?
Okay, so I'll tell you in the sequence. So books that I really liked is, there's this one book by author Robin Sharma, uh, Leader Without a Title, right? I feel that it's a great book, and um, no matter if you are doing a job or you are doing a business or you're just thinking of something, you should read it because it talks about very fundamental things about people and how businesses go in a very structured way. There's another book called Almanac of Naval Ravikant. So that's also a great book. The Hard Things About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. And there's this one book, which in general is very good. Is the subtle art of not giving an F. Right.
Yeah, yeah. I've read that.
So I really like that book. And it will save you a lot of time and a lot of your mind
Yeah.
space if you try to implement what the author is trying to say. So these are some of the books. About mentors, I have many. In my different stages of my life, I came across many people who acted as a mentor for me, and I'm still connected to all of them. Right, and all of them helped me to navigate through the challenging times even today. Right, it could be my first boss like 10, 15 years back. A friend that I've met, someone younger than me, right, who tell me about how the Gen Z is thinking about. Right, so I have multiple mentors in my life who help me to navigate through the different challenges. And one life turning event for me was I'm an engineer. I started in manufacturing industry, right, into production. But then one decision that I took is to leave that job and try to start doing something of my first startup. And the first startup didn't work out. The second one didn't work out. Then instead of going back to the regular job, I got an opportunity to join CII, which is currently IIM Ahmedabad Ventures, and I took that opportunity. Right, it was a lower paying job than my last job, but I still took it because I just wanted to be in that particular ecosystem. And honestly, the initial plan was to just do it for like 6 to 9 months. So these were the two turning points in my life, I would say. First is deciding to leave a job. Second is to get into the startup ecosystem. Almost everything I know is because of these two things.
Yeah. I mean, when people leave their jobs, they either feel relief or they are scared. And then, basis on those two such like feelings, you take your next step, right? Like how you approach everything else. So I feel that
So
that yeah,
I believe you feel both the things. So the
yeah,
day do you leave your job, you'll be relieved. After 2 months, you will start feeling a little bit scared, right? So both the things happens. I think so.
yeah. Actually, yeah, that's true. Okay. Uh, this has been great, Apoorv. I'm so glad that we finally had this conversation and it was long
Likewise.
overdue. Thank you so much for joining us for this podcast.
Thank
I
you
hope
so
you
much
had
for
fun.
having me. It was really fun. Absolutely, it was really fun talking to you.
Okay,
Thank you so
that's great.
much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Apoorv. Have a good rest of the day. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.